Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 89, the only gaming news show on the internet not afraid to piss anybody off or ruffle feathers or offend people. Enjoy.
Mhm.
Welcome. We have a table ready for you. Um, I am your host, Dan, joined by my bestest pal, Anthony, and we're going to just, like I said last week, talk about stuff and things going on in the gaming industry, see what's what, give our opinions, some hot takes, some shitty takes, some probably better than average takes, and we'll see where this episode takes us. So, on that note, as usual, every week we go over what we've been playing. So I think I went first last week. So Anthony, you can take it away today.
All right. For me, it's been pretty much just the rotation this week. So
Okay.
I've been playing a little bit of Genshin Impact. I've been playing different fighting games. I've played finals, obviously. Marvel Rivals has been pretty consistently back on there. If me, Harrison, and whoever else is available
Okay.
is that's kind of the game of choice right now. The one thing I will say is obviously a new season for Marvel Rivals just dropped, so Deadpool got added to the game.
Yeah, how is
Alongside
that?
some balance. I mean, he's pretty interesting. It's kind of like basically he's got he can jump between his katanas and his pistols and whatnot. And what's interesting about him is he's actually a multi-role hero. So there's a tank version of him, a damage version of him, and a healer version of him. And I've tried mainly the tank and healer version of him, and I think he's pretty fun. He's kind of busted in a few ways because like he doesn't function, a lot of his underlying stuff doesn't function quite the same as what the game normally is. Like instead of building an ultimate charge or something, he's like a style meter, almost like Devil May Cry, and when that fills up, that's how he does his ultimate ability. And then in his
Cool.
ultimate ability, there's like another style meter. Yeah, it's cool for what it is, but it's got some quirks. And I don't mean the what everybody else means, we're just like, new thing mean broken, this thing is broken. I mean, like, there are some exploits you could do. Like if you're playing the healing version of him, the tank can just sandbag for a little bit, come back to you, and then you jump on his head a couple times, heal him to full, and you'll have your ultimate ability, because that's how his ultimate charges. So it needs a little bit of tweaking to make it not exploitable. He's also got a leveling system. Like you can level up in the match and upgrade different abilities and whatnot. But overall, he's been pretty fun. I think his kid is just fine. I know people that this kind of character brings out the worst in people, because they're just like, I why do I have to ban him multiple times? If I ban one hero, it should ban all versions of that hero, you know? So you have some like really troglodyte opinions out there, and just like shit that people just can't seem to wrap their head around, and they're complaining because like every community or audience or player base out there will always have stupid people or like low level thinkers that just can't adjust to like things being added. And luckily we ignore most of them and just make cool things anyway. But yeah, I would say that's the bulk of it. I'm just about done with like that big thing that I've been playing week over week, and I'll have more to say about that next week. But that's
Okay.
pretty much the gist of it. So
Fair enough.
on to you.
As far as I go, we played a ton of Split Fiction yesterday. We played it pretty much all day,
Yes,
and
indeed.
we thought that so at the beginning of our PlayStation yesterday, we thought that we were pretty much like nearing the end of it.
Yes.
Not the case. There was a lot
There
more
was.
to go through,
Yes.
and we're still not done with it.
Yeah.
It is such a good time to just hop on and like do things cooperatively for a game that was made from the ground up for that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking for years how we wanted something cooperative to play. Just it feels like there's not enough of experiences like Split Fiction where it's like
There's
easy
not,
to
yeah.
get into, and like there's no like strings attached, because normally when you look at all the other co-op adventures, it's either not like a campaign experience, or like there's limits to what you can do in cooperative modes. And this is just a straightforward cooperative experience, and it's been very fun because, you know, and you'll get to more of it obviously, but I really dig the fact that like it's not afraid to just try new things for different levels or different segments, you know, and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
very fun.
And we were actually talking a little bit about this yesterday. All like the not so great stuff seems to be front loaded in the game because it just gets better and better as we continue through it. And I really want to know like what the final gameplay sequence is in this game, because I
Yeah.
keep on hearing that it's like mind blowing as far as a co-op experience goes. So I'm really excited for that. I'll probably finish it up next week, I think.
I would
So
imagine.
yeah, Split Fiction has been a big one. I've been playing, normal rotation, some Battlefield, some Dark Tide. We played the finals, Left 4 Dead. Jumped back into Helldivers 2, just a splash earlier today.
Yes.
And then I started a new playthrough for Batman Arkham Asylum. After I finished Spider-Man, I was like, this reminds me so much of the Arkham series. I just want to play it again. So I've been playing Arkham Asylum on my own time, and it's so good. It's like it really did set the foundation for most superhero games that we have today, and even like a lot of other just action adventure games that we have today. So nothing but good things to say about Arkham Asylum. Also, I have to say, like, the game came out when, in 2007? This game came out in 2010. Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was definitely later, because 2007, 2008 is when everyone was kind of getting on board with the Xbox 360, and that was like all the multiplayer stuff. And I remember playing the demo a lot, and then getting it later. So, yeah. So I mean, this game is 16 years old at this point, and it still looks fucking phenomenal. It is so atmospheric. The art style is great. Like, everything about it is great. Like, it's one of the few masterpieces out there as far as like video games go. It's so good. It's part, as far as the visuals are concerned, it's part of that. I mean, we talked a lot about it with some of the recent things that we've been playing, but it's like it's a realistic art style, not bogged down by realism. You know, so it's not overly cartoonish. It's not out there. These are humans in a comic setting, and you know, the characters look a little comic-y, for lack of a better term, and they don't hold back at all with the environments. They just kind of do whatever they want with environments.
But it all works to its strength. So Arkham Asylum is fantastic. Now that I'm playing through it again, I am that much more excited to get back and do another playthrough of Arkham City, because Arkham City was my favorite one out of the trilogy, and I have such fond memories of that game. I've played through it, I think, 3 times in total over the course of its release, and I want to do it again. So I am definitely looking forward to that. It's nice to have like a trilogy to really sink my teeth into again. That's pretty much what I've been playing. Nothing too crazy. I don't even know like what game is on the horizon in the immediate future that I'm like really excited for. So,
I can think of one.
Go on.
Highgaurd, of course.
Oh yeah. Okay, so perfect transition. So while we're on the topic, we talked about Highgaurd, I think, one time after it was announced at the Game Awards.
I think we might have talked about it twice. Once being right after it was announced, and again later as like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Oh, you know, I think we talked about it after Vincent Pella passed away.
Yes, we did.
So the reason why I wanted to bring it up, and that was just a perfect transition, is because they put out the trailer at the Game Awards, and then nothing. There's been no marketing.
Silence.
There's been no social media presence. There's been nothing. Which, I mean, that's a little scary, man. Actually, not even a little. That's a lot of scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as of this recording, we are January 18th. The game comes out on the 26th, I think. So we're just about a week away, and nobody has heard a peep. The Twitter account has like maybe a couple thousand followers, if that. The trailer does not have the viewership that it should for like a game being made by the former developers of Apex and Titanfall. This does not bode well. I mean, they've got to know, right? They've got to be aware that this is the perception.
My whole thing is, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Highgaurd and its presence at the Game Awards. You know, people like to remember, it's like, oh, you know, you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to be at the Game Awards, you know, for like, you know, I think they do it by minute is how that works. But then people are also saying, insiders are claiming, I should say, that Jeff just kind of put it up there, like he just had faith in the game and he put it up there. So it's like, did Jeff accidentally throw them under the bus by putting them on a stage and a platform and a position in that show that they just were not able to, you know, live up to?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
would
if that's
this have
the
done
case,
better
then
with
it's
like
really
no service at all?
Yeah, if that's the case, that's a really shitty situation to be in as the developer of that game.
Yeah, all I can really say, I mean, there are other things to talk about with the game, and obviously we're going to try it, but I mean, all I have to say is thank God that game is free to play.
Yeah.
Because if this had like anything higher than a $20 price tag, I would be
Even
on
at
board
$20.
with. Yeah, exactly. Because like my whole thing is like I said this before when it was announced, and the one or two times we've talked about it, people are like, "Oh, it's Concord 2, it's Concord 2." I said, "No, it's not quite that bad." But now we're getting closer, and there's like no swell
Even
at all.
Concord had marketing.
Yeah, that's
You
what I'm
know,
saying. Like, there's no swell, there's no marketing, there's no excitement.
there's
So I'm just like,
nothing. There's
thank God
absolutely
this game
nothing,
is
which
free.
is so weird.
Yeah,
It's so
thank God this game is
strange.
free. So
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing is like because it's not ludicrously like bad looking. It's just not interesting, and that mixed with the fact that it's free to play, you might have some people going, all right, let's try like what we're doing, let's try this piece of shit out and see how it is. And you'll have other people that are playing it, they'll play it for the memes or to see how bad it is, and like you'll have people trying it. So as long as the gameplay is good, hopefully, it doesn't fall flat on his face if it doesn't deserve to, because at this
Yeah.
point it's less about how you or me feel about the game or anyone feels about the game. It has unfortunately has like this huge expectation stacked on top of it just because of the nature of its announcement. So
Right.
the saving grace, yeah, go
Like
ahead.
even if they kept that final slot at the Game Awards, if they just didn't like put in your face that it was made by the same people who made Apex and Titanfall, I feel like it would be a little bit different. Even if even if the trailer slot was the same, it would be a little different because now like you're throwing two extremely popular buzzwords in people's faces, and they're associating those names with excellent, well-made, polished products. And then we see what they showed, and it's like this does not look spectacular at all. And now on top of that, there's been absolutely there's just been radio silence since the game trailer came out. It's like, what are you guys doing? This is a bad look and an even
Yeah.
worse omen.
It does
So
not look good.
yeah,
See what
not
happens,
great.
though.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay,
before we continue, before we
Yeah.
move on, we have another writing question this week.
No way. Yeah, let's hear
Yes,
it.
we do. All right.
Fuck
So
yeah.
this one is a bit more generalized, but it's actually an interesting one. The question
Same
is,
guy out of curiosity or different?
yes, it's the same guy.
Okay.
It's the same
Okay.
guy. Despite the volume of shooter games, is there any type you feel is being neglected? Now, I have my answer, and you probably know what my answer is, but Dan, what is your answer to this question?
A neglected genre, like a neglected subgenre of shooters that's being
Yeah,
neglected.
like, or any type of shooter that is being neglected in your mind, despite the overwhelming amount of them that are out there.
There's a lot of different offerings on the market right now, and shooters are my bread and butter. So, I feel like you put me on the spot. I have to come up with a good answer because that's like basically all I play. Okay, I might get made fun of a little bit for this, but the answer still stands, and I personally think it's valid. I think how do I word this without seeming like a fucking idiot? However you want to classify Destiny, I think that genre is being highly neglected because for the past decade, Destiny 2 has been the only game to really stand the test of time in the, quote, shared world shooter, unquote, subgenre of shooters. We've got plenty of arena shooters, even if they're not spectacular. The first one to come to mind that took another crack at it is probably Splitgate 2, and then Splitgate 2 Reloaded, which kind of fell flat on its face. You got plenty of PvE shooters out there. They're probably not very popular, but they're out there. My favorite of those is Darktide. Now, are we including third person in this? I would assume we are.
I was gonna talk about third person, so yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to rope third person into that, a third person cover based shooter in the same vein of Gears of War, there just hasn't been another good one since Gears. That would be
that
my
was
answer
pretty
for
much
third.
that was what I was gonna say. I was just
Okay.
gonna flat out say third person shooter in
Yeah.
the cover action because and on your answer is a good one too because you say shared world, and I think that's more apt for what they actually offer. My mind immediately goes to like MMO light shooters
Yeah,
and that
no,
kind of thing.
that's totally, you're valid on that. Destiny has just had such a monopoly on like the type of thing that it is that
Yeah.
no other studio has been able to successfully make one of those.
Yeah.
And I still think that Call of Duty has some of the best feeling gunplay around. Everything else around that is just total trash. So
That's
there's
fair.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say to that is that pretty much I would say there were a few different shooters that attempted something of the shared world variety and not like the full experience that Destiny had to offer as a whole, where there's like, you know, ongoing storage and stuff like that. Like, for example, the first thing that comes to mind is what was it, the first Ascended, or I always get it confused. I get first and last confused and Descendant confused.
I think it's the first Descendant. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the first
Yes.
Descendant. I just
Because
looked it up.
it's interesting. I think about that game, and I like it from an outsider looking in. You would say like, oh, Dan, Anthony, that game right there, it fills both of those niches. And to that, I would say not quite, because it doesn't quite have all the systems of a Destiny. It doesn't quite have the long-term experience or player, I guess, identity build-up that like an MMO kind of factors into that, which Destiny would do. And as far as third-person shooters goes, one thing we have in abundance is like almost like third-person action games where it's like very fixed against your back, you know, your move. It's more about the perspective and less about
Very
the third-person
Uncharted.
shooter. Yeah, you could look at it that
Yeah.
way too. But even a lot of these have less movement options than like a Tomb Raider or Uncharted or something like that.
Yeah.
Like something like a Gears of War, which is the example you use and the example I always use because they did it best. It's like something. It's like, okay, the closest is like what, the Division. Maybe there are some indies out there I haven't seen or something, or some AA
I mean, for what it's
experiences
worth,
that
the
never caught
Division
on.
was. I'm sorry, finish your thought.
No, I was done with my thought.
Oh, okay. For what it's worth, the Division and the Division 2 were pretty solid third-person cover-based shooters. Not as good as Gears, but they were still solid. I think a lot of it got bogged down by like just the nature of what it was trying to be. And to go back to my answer of like a shooter in the same vein as Destiny, it's not that like the sum of its parts for Destiny isn't even like what I'm craving. It's the raid experience that Bungie was able to garner in that game is unlike anything I've ever played in any other first-person shooter, and it is so like, especially if you take on the higher difficulties, you have to be so perfect with your execution, with the puzzle solving and the combat. There's nothing else like it, and that was the driving factor behind me putting so many hours into that game to begin with. And it sucks that I think the core reason why Destiny is suffering the fate that it is because there's just no competition. There's nothing. There's no competition whatsoever that is trying to do a similar thing to Destiny. And I know like you don't like the game because of the way that it feels for you to play, which is a valid gripe to have.
I can still acknowledge what it offers and understand the landscape of things.
Yeah. But you know, even with that complaint, it's like, I get it, but there's still nothing out there that is going to challenge a team of more than 3 people to, like, depending on the raid, high level puzzle solving while also trying to stay alive in every second of the game that you're in. And I'm talking in circles, but that's my answer. I think a shared world MMO light type of shooter would be something that has been highly neglected. We have got plenty of PvP experiences. We got plenty of co-op experiences. As far as something that is puzzle solving and like objective based, that's not necessarily how well you're performing in combat. That is what I just love. And Destiny, it did it best. And there's nothing else like it. That's what I would like to see more of.
Okay. No, that makes sense to me.
There was a long pause there.
No, it's a good answer though. It's a good answer.
Yeah. So thank you for the question. Actually, that was probably my favorite one so far.
There you go.
Keep them coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move on now. You put a couple different things in the news channel that I think you should just start with, because that's a bunch of good like tidbits of info.
Okay,
January
so
12th. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. January 12th. I mean, this is kind of, I didn't watch the event, but I saw something called FPSDay. there was a lot of like swell about the Division. Like the Division 2 announced like a whole new mode where it's like realism mode where there's no HUD. There's like cooldowns that last longer, headshots are one-shot kills, ammo is scarcer and stuff like that. I'm just like, say what I will about the Division games, you know my opinion on like both the first and second, how they vary wildly, I guess you could say. But they get very long-term support,
Yeah.
I even think if you go on there, like it even has like up-to-date stats, like, oh, this is year 7 season 2, and I'm just like, well, if you want to keep supporting them, that's fine with me.
It's still got a very dedicated cult following. Actually, that realism mode that you just mentioned, it sounds a lot like one of the first expansions that came out for, I think, the Division 1, just called Survival, where it was like an extraction type of thing, where they just drop you in a map and it's like a blizzard and there's like a whiteout condition, and you start with nothing. You got to run around and collect resources and equipment and weapons and everything. I never really played it because it wasn't really my cup of tea at the time, but it sounds very, very similar to that, with the exception of the no HUD.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
anyway, continue.
No, so I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't know if this was ever confirmed. I mean, there was rumors that like the Division 1 was getting a definitive edition. Was that ever confirmed?
That's confirmed. Yeah, that's happening.
Okay, so it is confirmed, because it's funny. Yeah. I heard more about the rumors and leaks and how it was spotted than the actual game itself. So if you know anything about this, feel free to tell me. I haven't heard a damn thing.
I know next to nothing aside from the fact that it's actually being made and that it's happening. If I had to speculate, it's probably the game slightly touched up with all the DLC that they came out with in one neat package. I don't know what the online component is going to be like, because at the time the game was trying to compete with Destiny, and everyone knows how that whole thing worked out. But I just know that it's happening, and they're making a definitive edition for Division 1, and they are actively working on the Division 3. The creative director confirmed that during a interview or something, like, very recently.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, again, we've talked about the Division before and where I kind of stand with it. I mean, I'm almost tempted.
You played the shit out of the Division 1.
I played the shit out of the Division 1, like a disgusting amount. Like, I had 2 weeks off from work, and it was just a constant cycle of people getting the game. So I did that. The first, like, game's worth of content, like the launch content, I probably did that, like, 4 times back to back.
Yeah, that's crazy. You absolutely burnt yourself out on that.
Yeah, 100%. I killed my whatever attention I had to that game, but it was a solid shooter. I liked it better than the Division 1. I'm sorry, than the Division 2. Yeah.
I don't really remember the Division 1 that well. I remember playing it with you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a blur. I can understand that. I would probably remember less of it if I didn't, quadruple down on it, essentially. But no, I mean, that was really all I had to say on that. Is like, I saw leaks and rumors that were apparently more prevalent than the fucking announcement itself, because I didn't hear anything after that.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is that apparently Sam Fisher will show up in the series at some point, because
that kind of fits. It just feels like nostalgia bait.
Yeah, I mean, he's like he is of the Tom Clancy brands that they have. Sam Fisher.
The Division is probably the last thing that has the Tom Clancy name attached to it that actually feels like a Tom Clancy game.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it would be interesting to check to see exactly how much involvement he had with the series outside of just slapping his name on it. I don't know too much about it. I'm pretty sure Rainbow Six had the most involvement, or the most, I guess, closest to like whatever material he had.
I'm fairly certain that he wrote some of the earlier Rainbow Six stories for the games. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. And then after that, I think he just sold his brand to Ubisoft, and they just slapped his name on anything that was like a military sim type of game.
Yeah, no, that definitely happened at the end.
Yeah. And they just fucking bastardized it with X-Defiant and whatever else they released.
Do you think he even knew what End War was? Do you remember End War?
Absolutely not. I do remember End War. No, he probably had no idea what video games were. So he never served in the military, and everything that he wrote was like hyper detailed accounts on military equipment and procedure, and he just like wove stories into it, and people loved it.
Yeah.
That's how we got so popular.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on. Unless you want to mention that Palworld thing, or does it not matter?
I mean, I guess I'll just mention it. Palworld is doing its own official trading card game. I guess
That's
this
just
is like
a big
I
middle
find
finger.
that, yeah, I find it funny. I mean, my understanding is that Nintendo is in the process of losing that or losing ground, and you know,
Yeah.
Palworld will be free to do what it is. And what I'll say is this: I mean, to a certain degree, just because the big news about this obviously isn't Palworld announcing its official trading card game. It's Palworld announcing its official trading card game, and it exists in a world in which Pokemon also exists. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with
You know
wanting
what?
to protect
Good on
your.
Palworld for standing up to the big guy.
Yeah, seriously, we need more competition and stuff like that, because like some of the nightmare stories around the Pokemon brand, it's just like there's a level of complacency and degradation there that I don't quite fathom. And I'll tell you right now, the Pokemon fans don't make it fucking easy, because a lot of them will just consume things. And don't get me wrong, like, say what you will about Pokemon or growing up with it and whatnot and stuff like that, like, there is fun to be had in just about any Pokemon game, but like the polish is just so hit or miss and all over the place, and the quality of the product compared to other offerings, not even from the industry but from Nintendo. So it's like they need competition. And you know, hypothetically speaking, if all this legal action goes through, and at the end of it, you know, Palworld is still standing, like, it needs to light some kind of fire under Nintendo, because that brand is just in such a poor spot, I would say.
I wouldn't know. I haven't touched Pokemon in decades at this point.
Yeah, my thing is, like, I forget the last one I really tried. I think the last one I personally really tried was X and Y, and then I've watched plenty of the other ones just through friends that I know that still play it. And my whole thing is, like, I don't, you know me, I'm not the kind of guy that like grows out of certain things and says, oh, this is for kids, or oh, this is for girls, or this is whatever, blah, blah. I go and I try things. I'd be down to play a good Pokemon game. I just don't see it. Like, you're not enticing me. You know, there are certain things in the franchise that have remained solid, that even I can tell, like newer designs, environments, you know, characters and stuff like that. They're pretty much on par as far as I can tell, or at least staying the course. But like the overall experience just leaves so much to be desired, which is crazy, because compared to the original games, which were like light RPGs with like a higher skill ceiling in the, if you decided to get the competitive stuff, or as the games went on they added extra modes and stuff like that. But like nowadays, like the Pokemon games are like literally like live battles, and you are moving around as yourself while issuing commands to the Pokemon, kind of like what everybody wanted since we were kids, you know. So I'm just like, that should be a slam dunk. We shouldn't be questioning your quality, and quite possibly the biggest of evolution time for the franchise, you know.
Yeah.
So it's spotty, but you know, overall, Palworld good. I'm glad they didn't get fucking completely obliterated by Nintendo, who loves their legal warfare, their lawfare and all that stuff. So you know, if worst comes to worst, you just have two brands out there. You know, doesn't necessarily drastically change everything, but it should.
Yeah, I fucking have almost nothing to say about Pokemon. The last game that I played was one of the colors, I think.
So what, you basically started and stopped?
Yeah. I think there's something on the Game Boy SP, I want to say.
Well, that could be anything, because obviously it was backwards compatible with like the color games and stuff like that. So,
all right. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so nothing like gaming related, but it's like broad enough that it could touch video games. It has to do with Warhammer. So Games Workshop have banned all use of AI content production in anything relating to the Warhammer IP. Now, this is, in my opinion, just fucking chef's kiss perfect. And I'll tell you why. Number one, I'm not, I don't like AI. And we can get into that. You've grown to
despise it.
I'm not at the despise point. I think I'm at the strong dislike, borderline hate. And there's a reason for that, but that's not really relevant right now. So Games Workshop is not allowing any of their artists or development studios or writers or whatever to produce any content that is aided by AI whatsoever. And it's perfect. So like one, they feel that like it will cloud the artistic decision making process and like in the whole creative process of making stuff for the Warhammer franchise, number one, which is personally I think is accurate. Number two, it's so perfect on like a poetic level because even in universe in Warhammer 40K, all use of AI and like thinking machines are banned in like punishable by death in the universe because they were like semi-responsible or they helped cause the collapse of the golden age of mankind. And it just like it's so perfect the way that they are leaning into that. I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's nothing like earth-shattering or anything. It has not like like I just said, very little to do with actual video games. But I think that them making this call is it's big enough that it will eventually have some effect on their video game development somewhere along the line. Because as a Warhammer fan, primarily of the games and then of the story second, like I've been eating really good as a Warhammer fan. Space Marine 2 is excellent. Darktide is one of my favorite shooters ever. And then we're now getting Warhammer 40, Total War, Warhammer 40K, and Dawn of War 4, which are two just totally different RTSs that are going to offer different things. And no one is allowed to use any AI in the production of or the development of these games. And I think that's just so perfect, especially with the lore implications of the actual Warhammer 40K universe. So like I said, nothing huge, but like that's just so poetic in my eyes. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely I know we've had our conversations about it. I definitely think it's better than the alternative of going all into AI. I do think a lot of the companies now, like Games Workshop, who are making the decision to make blanket bans, I do think that in the future, as the technology settles, they should have that opportunity to reevaluate for tools, not generative, obviously. And I think that the best of both worlds is banning it outright right now, and then later reevaluating as the tools are figured out, so that they can actually, they don't have to worry about reputational damage because they already have more than enough controversies when it comes to lore implications and stuff like that every now and again, or different conflicts with the producers of the different figurines and the miniatures and all that kind of stuff, right? They have enough on their plate. This is actually a big win for them, I would say, reputational wise, while they're dealing with other snafus going on across their brand.
One less thing to worry about.
Yeah, I would say. And I obviously the brand isn't perfect. Obviously they get caught up in a bunch of different, cultural fiascos, but as you've reiterated before, the franchise is so massive that you can find little nooks and crannies to entertain yourself while the bigger implication stuff is going on. So it's like, this relates directly to the human touch and quality, and I think that really is going to assist any fan that is still hanging on for whatever reason, So I would say it's a good win, but the only reason I'm not like saying, oh yeah, hell yeah, slam dunk, is because I do think long term it's foolish to not peek your head out every now and again and to see a more metered approach to the potential of new tools through this. But it is smart in a period of time where people are just going and hitting prompt me this over and over again. It's good to ban that kind of practice.
Yeah, so I think that's a good win for Warhammer, for Games Workshop right now. I think you're probably right in the long run about reevaluating later, but I think at this point in time, it's a very slippery slope with AI, and I'm not a fan right now. Anyway,
speaking of AI, now earlier in the week, I said to you, like, watch this trailer; it'll be relevant. Did you end up watching the trailer? If you didn't, that's fine.
I don't think I did. No.
Okay, so Fatal Fury: City of the Wolves. You've heard me mention the game a handful of times, I would imagine, at this point. You know my position on it. I talked about it at the game show that we did and all that kind of stuff. Their season 1 of content wrapped near the end of the year, last year. And for a while they've been doing teases for the season 2 of content. Everybody's been wondering what the hell they're going to do, right? There's been a couple big teases. A lot of people are looking like, oh, is this for Art of Fighting? There are other series. This is an actual tease. There's a massive guest appearance coming up with a legacy anime that's been around for a long fucking time. One of the biggest shonen anime, Fist of the North Star. And what ended up happening is, after a leak happened where like one outlet kind of jumped the gun and just showed like the season pass, which is 4 returning characters and 2 mystery characters which have yet to be revealed, the next day they showed off the trailer, and Daniel, people are in a big stink because that trailer very obviously
is it ripe with AI.
Tell you what, you should click on that while I'm talking just so that I can hear your
boy.
reaction as I'm talking. So
Here it is.
yeah, so go ahead and I'll give you a second to watch that.
Okay, Fighting Game of the Year 2025, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. Let's see. Oh yeah, you could tell.
Yeah, right
you
off
could
the
tell.
bat. Doesn't get any better. It's very obvious.
It is. I feel like the average person wouldn't. They wouldn't pick up on it, but like, I've used AI to try to create different things here or there before, and obviously I've seen it in different capacities, like around the internet and in the games industry. This is so on the nose, it's crazy.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are little things that are mixed in there that, like, if you just watch it at a first pass and you don't know what you're looking for, you'll know it if you know the style that AI tends to turn out and how it moves and all that kind of stuff. But like, overlaid with it, there are like flashy other effects, which leads me to believe it's like how we talk about things should be crafted by human hand and helped by AI. This almost feels like it was crafted by an AI and then helped with a human hand. So they kind of did the inverse. And so let me just, now that you've seen the trailer and you understand that the AI stuff is very noticeable, and as you know, this is a company that is very much known for, one, being a legacy company in Japan, but two, being having the coffers of the Saudis at the ready. People were a bit irate, but let me give you the rundown here. This season pass is giving content in a way not seen in basically like 13 years ish, depending on who you ask, right? There is a new character coming every month. Only games that have managed to pull it off, I think one season of Street Fighter V managed to do that. If not, it was close. And the other one was Killer Instinct back on the Xbox, the reboot of Killer Instinct. This is huge because, as you've probably heard me complain about before, fighting games are kind of in a spot where they get like 4 characters a year if you're lucky. And then everyone else is just kind of doing characters at random. Like Guilty Gear Strive just craps out a character like every 130 days or something, and there's this other one, Under Night, which gave out one character like within like the first month or so, and then it's like, okay, the next one's coming out in 9 months, just wait for it. So fighting game stuff is very hit or miss, and I've listed all the reasons why with the profitability behind it, but what I'm getting at here is people are going nuts about this. You know, it's like,
in a good or a bad way? In
a bad way. Like, they are sure. Like, because you know how, you know to a certain degree how people get when AI is brought up, and I've mentioned it to you if you didn't, is that they're either very pro everything's got to be done with AI, or they want to burn down the studio, right? My whole problem with this is, like, people aren't saying like, whoa, you're a 30-something-year-old company that currently has the backing of one of the largest treasure troves on the planet. What is this? You know, I don't see appropriate and accurate responses talking about the specifics. Nobody's going, wow, the content's great. Why the fuck are you using AI? You're a multi-million-dollar company now. You know, you say it in the trailer. This is the fighting game of the year in your estimate. You know, you have the largest prize pool of anything else. Why are you crapping out a trailer with AI, right? Especially because all of the teasers I mentioned before had perfectly fine anime art done by the studio and led by an artist that did like an OVA way back in the 90s, right? So like the precedent was there for just an animated cutscene. There's animated cutscenes in the game. Ken and Chun-Li, when they got added to the game, there were animated cutscenes. Like, these things happen, and then out of the blue they just crap out this AI thing. But well, you have a problem with AI, or you're getting there, and I have a problem with the usage. This is what people are saying. They're going like, it's hard to love SNK, man. I used to love this company. I fucking hate it now. It's like, oh man, hard to be an SNK fan. It's pretty embarrassing to see this AI trailer out there, saying shit like fans deserve better. And it's like, I get it. You can be pissed about the AI in the trailer. You are getting some of the best gameplay content the genre has seen in over a decade, And I had my own I had my own complaints about the marketing this game went through. Watching them trot out that one soccer player guy, watching random streamers beat the crap out of the characters, awkward music videos. I put off buying the game that I wanted essentially for 17 years because of the actual shit to have complaints about. Crammed in celebrities, awkward music collabs, crappy English casting and localization. I put it off, And I think it's fine to raise a stink over AI, but it's like, at the same time, these fucking people, I know that there are people like who just yesterday would be, or like last week would be saying, oh, SNK and the Saudis, it's over. It was always over, and now those people today are saying SNK, they were the top dogs, but then they started using AI, and it's also fake and retarded. And I guess where this rant is going is just like, yeah, AI shouldn't really be used, on a whim by these companies, but at the same time, it's like nobody was playing this fucking game anyway. It has a shockingly low player count for what it's offering, and I think the whole thing's misguided. I think there's a bit of hysteria around it, is basically what I'm getting at,
Okay.
Cause it's like, imagine Modern Warfare got like there was a Modern Warfare trilogy game that came out where it's basically like all the campaigns from the original trilogy were in one game, and then a multiplayer experience was mixed together of all those things.
Terms in which I can understand.
Yes, you're getting a game that you waited fucking forever for, right? And all of a sudden, like, a trailer comes out with the AI. Would you say, fuck this company, fuck this game, I'm never touching the game ever, this one trailer ruined it, but at the same time there's no AI usage to create the game itself? Like, how would you react to that realistically?
No, that's a big gray area. Like, I'd have a problem with the studio making the trailer with the help of AI like that, but that goes back to the whole generative versus tools argument. And if there was no usage of AI in the actual development of the game, of course I would still play it if it's something that I've been waiting forever for. Like, what kind of stance is that?
Yeah. It's all fake. It's all bullshit, and it's just more hysteria.
Yeah.
And part of me doesn't really mind people being critical of this kind of stuff, because these companies, if you aren't hysterical in certain factors, these companies are going to run amok. They think they can get away with anything. But there's a certain level of disingenuousness and like a lot of weird cope because of it. Like, people like I said, the content that they're offering is unprecedented. It's something that you don't really see anymore. But people are now going out of their way, instead of saying, wow, that's awesome, the trailer sucks, but this is awesome, they're saying stuff like, oh, well, they're not the first one to do it. And I'm just like, you son of a bitch. I get it, all right? It was Street Fighter V may have done like one or two seasons like that, or like, there was one season of Street Fighter V where they did 8 characters in a year, and like that's the same kind of cadence that you want. You either want monthly or you want a lot during the year. And then Killer Instinct definitely had at least 1 or 2 seasons where they were doing characters month over month over month, and that's awesome. But it's like, you have people who just before this were talking about how they're the worst and Evo is the worst and they aren't playing or competing in City of the Wolves because of the Saudi involvement, now saying that Fatal Fury and SNK were on the up and up, top of the game, but no, the AI is too far, So I guess, so I guess that basically, you had an AI story, I had an AI story, so that's basically where that was at. And I gotta say, it is pretty brazen. I have my opinions about, like I said, it's kind of like AI crafted human addition. They made additions to it, and that's kind of an interesting way to look at it, almost. But I would just prefer them to do the full anime thing at this point, But it was pretty brazen. Yeah, it was pretty brazen, and I guess the last thing to really comment on is that while a lot of it looks good on a first pass, like, people have taken out stills and it's like, this character looks like a completely different character. This character's clothes changes from scene to scene. This looks awkward, and it's like, I get it. And it's true. So that was that.
Alrighty. Okay, so I guess we can move on. The season 2 for Battlefield 6 that got delayed to February 17th, I think. I don't know. I don't remember when it was supposed to actually launch. I think it was the beginning of February, but they delayed it to focus on quote community feedback end quote.
Oh boy.
And I mean, the game has its own set of problems. Sure, it's still a fun Battlefield game. Sure, but people are really like upset about the lack of content in the game, and I'm not talking about like weapons. It's really more maps than anything else.
Yeah.
And I talked about this I think last week, so I'm not going to go back into it. But
Yeah.
that's a thing that happened. I think the community feedback part is really more of just how the game feels overall, how certain weapons perform, balance passes and updates and patching and stuff of that nature. If they were going to add more I have no idea what's coming in season 2. Let me just preface this with that. But I think if they were delaying it for content, I mean, we would have gotten a little bit more of a tidbit. So I think they're just going to be tweaking and kind of fixing what should not be broken right now. But
yeah, it's the curious thing to me is they just say, "Oh, community feedback." The community's been given a lot of feedback about a lot of different things, so who knows exactly what they're focusing on?
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. What is this Ecco thing? I have no idea what this is.
So basically,
Oh,
it's so weird to me. Like it's such a nothing topic technically, but it's just one of those. It's nice to see. So there are multiple Ecco the Dolphin games in development, is basically what that story is. And you said you have no idea what the fuck this is. I'm assuming that's 100% true. You have no idea what the fuck this is, right?
No, I've not. Yeah, no clue.
Yeah, Ecco the Dolphin is a weird. I wouldn't say platformer. It's almost like a puzzle navigation kind of game, right? That came out on the Sega Genesis way back when, and it's been renowned for its like a couple reasons. It's weird. It's general weirdness, the eeriness of the music, the relative difficulty because it's basically maze-like. There's a lot of objectives, like you got to go in, you got to save other dolphins, you unlock powers, and it's like you have psychic abilities and you're in tune with nature and stuff like that. And it's like it's on the line between really weird and disturbing and very nice and like kind of refreshing to see. I remember playing it as a kid and it scared the shit out of me because the music was like it had this like weird mysticism about it, and it was very strange. And then time passed. I think there's like 6 games in the series. A lot of them were on the Genesis. Kind of lightened up as time went on. I think the last game is a game called Ecco the Dolphin Defenders of the Future, which was a third-person like platform puzzle game. Which, holy shit, is that it's got awesome looking level design, phenomenal music from like one of the best composers ever to grace the gaming industry, and it has unique puzzles and platforming, but holy fuck, it handles like ass. It's like, imagine doing like controlling a dolphin, fast, needing to move fast and react fast and do these precise puzzles, but he handles like a fucking blimp. That's basically the best way I can describe it. But basically,
handles like a blimp.
Yeah,
made me laugh.
But basically, all there is to say is there are apparently multiple games in development. This could align with. Actually, I don't think it aligns with Sega's Jumpstart initiative, where I don't know if that's. I can't remember if that's what it's called, but I think that they're doing some kind of initiative to bring back retro games. I actually don't think Ecco's part of it, because if you check out the announcement or if you go to the webpage is hysterical, by the way, because it feels like a very new. Oh, the internet is new, I want to make my own website. It's antiquated in a way that I fucking love. It's very unpolished and unfinished. It's awesome. But it's mentioned in there. It's like, oh, we reached out to the creator in Sega and we got permission. So I don't even think this is really part of Sega's major plans going forward. They just happen to be making Ecco the Dolphin games with the I think the original guy is on board with it. My only thing is, like, I'll be interested to see if they're approaching the 2D stuff, if the 3D stuff, and whether or not either of the original composers are involved, because one of them is a guy that got around the industry a lot. He's the guy that handled like all the creepy and earlier stuff, and the other guy is, like I said, one of the best ever in the business, and I hope that either of them, or maybe even both of them, return to do music, because the music is phenomenal. So
Cool.
that's all there is. It's just a weird little thing because Ecco is, you've never heard of it obviously, as you've mentioned, but like if you like cruise around or just know or learn about history of the different, companies and consoles and all that kind of stuff, Ecco is a name that you would know, and it's kind of like a novel thing that kind of just, it had its time. It was on the Genesis. It made its way all the way through to Sega's last console with the Dreamcast. So it's novel.
Cool. Okay. I know. Yeah. I know nothing about this.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see what else we got. Massive Entertainment was hit with like 55 different layoffs. Interesting because they are developing Division 3, so you'd think they'd be hiring more people, but that's kind of par for the course for Ubisoft at this point.
Yeah, it's funny that this news comes out like just like a week or two after like everyone's talking, like starts gassing up the Division 3. And how it's going to like be this amazing change and something ironically massive, So
yeah.
That's anything attached to Ubisoft it's almost like an EA thing where like it just goes to shit or has a chance of like you get caught in the crossfire of some nasty action or something like that.
It's a shame because like their legacy was once like pristine.
I mean, you mentioned the legacy. We there was one episode, I forget when we talked about, but we talked about they have a phenomenal catalog.
Yeah,
they have a massive catalog, and it's just a shame that they're as hit or miss, or realistically speaking, just down and down as they are. But,
speaking of Ubisoft, more leaks came out for the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. This time it was soundtrack remakes. So, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because if it's going to happen, great. If not, whatever. Black Flag was probably the last Assassin's Creed that like I actually gave two shits about. If this is real and the remake is happening, I am cautiously optimistic because I would go back and play it again. It's been a very long time since I experienced like an Assassin's Creed of like what it once was.
My whole thing about Black Flag is there's a couple things. First, I would just say it's not the soundtracks, like remade soundtracks. It's they are suddenly relisting and re-releasing the original soundtrack, which is suspect. That's what everybody's talking about. As far as like the game itself goes, I mean, I'm iffy just because I do think that a lot of the Assassin's Creed games, because of the style they approached, are kind of in the position where a remake might be nice. But the whole thing is like, I am always hesitant about remaking already good games. It should really be reserved for games that have some kind of glaring flaw, and it can't just be like, even while I'm sitting here going, the visuals, the performance, it might be nice to get a better version. It's like, I don't know, like you could go and you could play Black Flag right now if you really wanted to. The only other thing I have to say is that it is technically it's in that awkward spot where like they just killed the modern story and they hadn't really engaged with a new version of the modern story, so it is one of the most standalone Assassin's Creed games you could do, I guess. But I don't know, it's tricky. I don't necessarily have faith in it. You remember what happened to the last Ubisoft remake, the Sands of Time remake? Like, where the hell is that game? It looks like shit from what I can tell, so who knows?
Yeah. All right, let's see. Moving on from there. Actually, something I was very curious to get your opinion about. So, as far as, like, gaming media goes, we're getting a new Tomb Raider show and a new God of War show from Amazon. Now, Kratos has been cast as... Or, I'm sorry, Ryan Hurst was cast as Kratos. He was in probably most notably Remember the Titans, and then after that, Sons of Anarchy. I know. I know. He was also in God of War Ragnarok. He played, Thor. So this is just poetic that he's playing Kratos. I personally think this is a really good casting. He's like a very big, physically large and imposing human being. I think is good. And I can already tell you don't agree.
So no, it's he's got the look. I don't know if he's got the voice and inflection for it.
Well, I mean, I think that could be trained in a person. I think the look is probably more important.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, because like you mentioned the Tomb Raider show, I don't think whoever they cast as Laura really pulls off the look. I don't think she's. Are
you serious? I thought she looked awesome as Lara Croft.
The costume.
Sophie Turner.
The costume is in the right direction. I don't know. I'm not so. I need to see more than maybe the pictures were just unflattering.
Well,
I don't know if
first of all, there's there's one picture that they released. It was
That's my
one.
point.
Okay,
I seeded that. I said
everyone's-
maybe. Listen, I'm just saying. That was just my first opinion. That's all.
All right, we're on two different ends of the spectrum here. I mean, from that one picture, I thought she looked really good as Lara Croft. Down to like the Ozzy Osbourne glasses. That was such a good touch.
I was gonna say they get credit for keeping the glasses because like a lot of modern day adaptations were just awesome. I guess you gotta understand my negativity is that like I don't have a lot of faith in these shows to begin with. I mean,
well, that's fair, but I'm not talking about like the quality of the show before it comes out. I'm just saying as far as the casting choice goes,
I'm just saying like
I think they're both solid choices.
I am simply painting that maybe my negativity is from my generalness. It's not something I'm saying in general. I'm not going like, well, the show's gonna suck, so she looks like shit. It's possible that I don't necessarily jive with the casting because I maybe in the back of my mind I have a little bit of bias going on. Who knows? I'm just pointing it out. As far as Ryan Hurst is concerned, I do think that he fits the bill. They just I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how much effort is going to go into God of War or any video game adaptation to get like the voice in the position that it needs to be. That's all.
Okay, so let me give you a counterpoint here real quick. When he played Opie on Sons, he was extremely somber, very soft-spoken. Maybe he wasn't as deep of a voice as Christopher Judge, but like Christopher Judge has not been the only Kratos, right? I don't know who played him in the original trilogy, but that's not everyone knows Kratos from Christopher Judge's portrayal of him, but that is not technically the original version of Kratos. So, I mean, you can throw that argument around, and I'm not saying your point is invalid. I think that Ryan Hurst is a really good casting choice, and if your one concern is his voice and inflection, I think that is probably something that they could not fix in post, but like train him with a voice coach or something. I don't know. I think it's a cool choice, and I'm not saying you're a glass half empty kind of guy because you are absolutely not. But you are so fucking skeptical about everything, and
listen, this is us analyzing what could be.
Be excited about something.
Listen, there's God of War to me as a franchise is interesting in my experience for it because it's like you have the franchises I love, the franchises I kind of like, and God of War is it's somewhere in the middle. I don't love it, but I always enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed 1, I enjoyed 2. When I got that PlayStation 3 controller bundle that came with all the games, I played through all the fucking games in a straight shot. I loved them.
I would agree with you on the original trilogy. I loved the remake. I thought it wasn't even a remake.
The open. What would you even call that? The opening to the is it technically a soft reboot because it's in the same continuity? Is that technically what it is?
Yeah, that's probably the closest description you can give it. Yeah. I mean, that was like for me, that was my game of the generation for that generation. I thought it was a masterstroke in game design.
I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot.
So, I mean, first of all, you're never going to please everybody, like, number one. And you can only try to get close. But I think that the casting choices for those two characters are solid, in my opinion. We haven't seen anything about Ryan Hurst dressed up as Kratos yet, but we've seen Sophie Turner in the costume for Lara Croft. I think she looks great as Lara Croft. And from everything that I've seen of Ryan Hurst between Remember the Titans and Sons of Anarchy, which is realistically like the only two things that I really like know him from. I think it's a really good choice because on the show on Sons, he towered above everybody. He was just like an imposing figure. He was one of the enforcers for the MC, and Kratos is like this fucking gigantic beast of not a human being, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. For what it's worth, every other part of the casting I like. I think he's got the build. I think that, like, you talked a lot about his stature and how he fits as like the body as Kratos. I also think that while, you brought it up as just like, because that's the most common ground we have is his appearance in Sons, is like, you brought up, he's this big guy. He's the enforcer. I actually think beyond just the way he looks, I think that the way he acted, even though I'm going to have the nitpick about the voice, I think that his actions and the way he acts actually also fit Kratos.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree with that also.
All
like,
of that works.
In Sons, he is very soft spoken. He's does not have a lot of dialogue at all, and just his attitude towards everything was very, very somber, because like in that show his character had already been through a lot, and like that is, I mean, not there's you can't make a one-to-one a comparison between these two characters, but there is a lot of Venn diagram crossovers here, and that's the only thing that we can realistically pull from to see how he's going to do as Kratos, even if he voiced Thor in Ragnarok. Like, obviously, Thor was a completely different type of character from Opie and Sons and Kratos in God of War. But anyway, I think it was a really good casting choice. We'll see how he does. And the same thing with Sophie Turner as Lara Croft. You know who Sophie Turner is, right? I mean, I know you've seen Game. Okay, I'm just because before you said that you didn't know her. I didn't wanted to make sure.
No, did I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I just said I thought I only commented on the casting.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Moon Studios added co-op to No Rest for the Wicked. If you enjoy that game, I'm happy for you. I've been meaning to pick it up. I just it's been in early access for a while now, and I don't know. I have a lot of other things on my plate.
Didn't one of the developers of Moon Studios get into a fight with Mike Ybarra recently?
That sounds right, but I don't know for sure.
He said I think what ended up happening is this guy he said something about he took a shot at how Diablo was, and like the current status of Diablo as like it's kind of like boiled down to it's like this mind-numbing numbers grind with microtransactions plastered through it. I forget that's how I'm describing the current landscape of Diablo, and I think he was commenting in a general sense to how Diablo is with Diablo 4, and I think Mike Ybarra stepped in and he said something along the lines of, I'm glad that your game's doing well, but you don't need to necessarily make comparisons or something to that effect. And it turned into him like picking a fight because he's just like, you oversaw, the destruction of a classic RPG franchise. You're part of the reason that Blizzard and Diablo are like in the position that it's in. And I'm just like, well, that's somebody called him out on his shit. It's always nice to me when because these guys in any industry, they live in their own personal ivory tower where they never come down. They think they're above it all. So it's nice for one of them to reach their head out and immediately just get slapped in the fucking face for all the stupid shit that they do.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. So No Rest for the Wicked's getting co-op. Ubisoft said that Assassin's Creed Shadows and Mirage were both, wait for it, quadruple A games. Shut the fuck up. Stop it. They need to be spanked. This is enough. It's enough.
Yeah, and the Chinese might be the one to do it. My whole thing with the quadruple A games.
I don't even want to spend that much time on this. You can get your thought out, but I just wanted to get that out.
All I'm going to say about this is I do think the term quadruple A games means something. I think it's applied to maybe one game ever, and that game got canceled. That being the Perfect Dark, where it was literally all hands on deck. Multiple if triple A games are massive studios, double A is smaller studios, and indie in between indie and double A is just whatever size group of independent developers. Quadruple A could stand to reason as multiple studios coming today. You could almost look at it like Call of Duty would be a quadruple A if it was all of those studios working on one game every so often, but Ubisoft has just fooled themselves. They just like throwing that term around. They have some of the most pompous and ridiculous and ass-headed
Ubisoft is like the epitome of huffing their own farts I've ever seen anywhere.
There are corporate groups out there that are worse for the industry, right? But Ubisoft, they are always so full of themselves, and this is because it's okay, so Ubisoft, the only developer and only company out there to ever develop a quadruple A game, and not only that, they did it 3 times. Both these Assassin's Creed games and Skull and Bones, they're all quadruple A games. Go fuck
yourself.
All
sold like shit, and they all fucking sucked from a gameplay perspective. They could fuck off.
Yeah.
Actually, Skull and Bones was so bad they had to spin up a remake from a game that's 15 years old that did it better back then. So Yves Guillemot he needs to fucking stop. It's enough already. I'm sick of it. as somebody who loved Ubisoft's older games, like this is just insulting at this point. Anyway, they deserve no more airtime on this show. Moving on. Okay, I put our Resident Evil 9 gameplay overview in here. I don't know if we're gonna have the time to go over this. We could save it for next week if you want, because we still have a couple other things to get to.
Yeah, if you want to give it the time it deserves, that's fine.
Yeah, because I do have some thoughts on it, and I feel like you being the fan that you are, that warrants its own conversation.
I have a lot to say on it too, so
yeah.
may as well say that
so it's on you. Don't forget next week, because I will. You know that. Okay, so the next bit of news that we have that's like semi-decently big is Julian Garrity, who was the executive producer on The Division. He left Ubisoft and he's moved over to Battlefield Studios. I don't know what his role is. He's probably going to be in a leadership position based on his tenure at Ubisoft. And now with Vince Zampella no longer with us, they have to fill that. I don't know if he's filling his slot, but I feel like my personal theory is he's definitely moving from Massive to Battlefield Studios to help with some sort of transition of power that was left with Zampella's passing. So, it's a decent bit of news just because people who still play The Division obviously love that game. They made a good game for the people they made it for. Yes. I don't really know how that expertise is going to transfer over to a game like Battlefield, but I guess we'll see.
Choices are limited. We already talked about how it's nobody's really truly replaceable at a certain level, but there's not enough talent in the industry to fill a gap like the one left by Zampella. It's not there. The industry hasn't been there in a long time.
Yeah.
So
there's no other developer out there in the gaming industry that could even come close to filling the void that Zampella had left behind. So, but we've already beat this horse to death. I don't want to go over it again. Yeah. So that's something that happened this past week. Do you know who Mark Dara is?
The name sounds familiar, yes.
So he was a producer / EP or executive producer at BioWare for a very long time. I think he's still there. I'm not 100% certain, but he recently did an interview with an ex-IGN employee. His name is Destin Legary. He has his own YouTube channel that I tune into when he uploads, because it's very objective-based news, and that's in short supply these days. So Destin did an interview with Mark Dara. It was basically a post-mortem of Anthem. Now, I'm only prefacing this because I want to say this for next week also, because there's a lot to unpack here. But it essentially all boils down to the fact that there, one, was no cohesive vision, and two, leadership turnover was rampant, which makes sense. But I want to just kind of shoehorn this in here because I do want to talk about this next week. Again, that's on you to remind me, because there was a lot in this interview. It was 45 minutes long. I'll listen to the whole thing. There was a lot in the interview that was kind of fascinating and very illuminating on the development cycle of Anthem. So that's something to, we'll put a pin in for next week. I just want to bring it up just so it's out in the open. After that, we got the new war bond for Helldivers 2 got delayed indefinitely because something wasn't working right. I found that kind of hilarious.
I saw people making the joke it's it was too fun, so they got to find a way to balance it or nerf it or something.
Yeah. So that's something, I guess. Well, that'll come out when it comes out. Let's see what else we got. Valve rewrote their Steam policies for AI-powered development tools when you're going to buy a game. Man, I got so much to say on AI. Actually, jumping off of that, so MSI is making a new monitor that has AI in the monitor on board already, and it's to the point where it's basically a pay-to-win piece of hardware, and it's kind of difficult to explain. I don't have I should get the infographic out because this thing is crazy, and I want to read off the not the specs, but there's a list of features. Okay, so they have AI tracker, AI Goggle, AI Vision Plus, AI Scene, Gauge, and Scope. So I'm going to go down the list. They're one-sentence descriptions. AI Tracker automatically highlights in-game characters. So naturally, you would assume that you can configure it to track enemies in a multiplayer game. AI Goggle lets the monitor auto-adjust its settings, like contrast, brightness, hue, whatever, to recover from flashbangs faster. AI Vision Plus is a brightness, it's a smart brightness adaptation, like in real time for, I mean, that's not that bad because it's just supposed to make your games look better. That's neither here nor there. AI Scene automatically detects content and switches to an optimal mode. AI Gauge syncs spectrum, okay, that's like a RGB thing. And here's a fucking gnarly one. AI Scope automatically zooms in on targets for precision with optimal night vision. What the fuck are we doing? What is going on here? And this is part of the reason why I can't fucking stand AI. It's ruining everything.
Well, that's so the one thing I would say about this is, like, how much is the thing going to cost, or is it just in the tech demo stage, being shown?
Oh no, it's a working monitor. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I would say easily over $1,000. I mean, the specs are still really good. I gotta find out.
When I hear about something like this, a couple things come to mind. The biggest thing for me is, like, how much of it is actually going to function properly, you know? Because if it's like, if it's within like, I look at it this way. One of your major complaints, and obviously everybody's getting burned by this, is that, you know, AI is driving the cost up of fucking everything computer hardware related, right? So if this monitor is, like, within a consumer's price range, like, and the requirements of AI are as high as they are, like, what could the actual, like, end results be? You know, like, how functional is this going to be? You know, how much does it live up to the expectations set by everything you just read off to me, you know? So I'm skeptical of, like, its actual, like, you know, it's not going to be like, you know, the one thing I will say is, like, whenever, like, any, like, a favorite, like, reaction image or a series of reaction images that people like to drop whenever technology of this nature is brought up, you know, they did the same when the Kinect was new. Is like, you know, it's like Iron Man, the older Iron Man films where he's in the helmet for the first time and all the things are popping up, and that's kind of what people expect of technology like this, but it almost never lives up to, like, the hype, you know?
Yeah. So you definitely have a point, as far, because I didn't even think of this. I just was blinded by my rage. You definitely have a point as far as, like, what the real world performance application is going to be, because right now we just don't know. It's not actually on the market yet. But even if it is less than great, it is still the first step in a long path or a short path to AI, one, being in everything, and two, you just outright paying for a competitive advantage in a video game, which is fucking bonkers. On top of that, I don't know how any anti-cheat software or anti-cheat security teams could possibly catch this, because this is manipulating the video signal once it leaves your GPU. So how does that work? Like, I'm not a computer scientist, but, like, I know there are hardware bans, but once the signal is out of the GPU and already processed and everything gets sent to your monitor, it is no longer, they can't track it anymore, as far as I understand it. How do you enforce something like that? Like, oh man, it scares the shit out of me. It really does. And it also makes me very angry at the same time, because on top of all this AI bullshit making everything more expensive, now it's directly causing an effect in my favorite hobby. So oh man, I don't even know where to begin, Anthony. Like, truly, I don't know where to begin. This is such a, I don't have the adjective. It's not tone deaf. Maybe greedy would be on the list. Dystopian is another word I could think of. But, like, whatever happened to playing your game? You know, not having your hardware help you play it. Like, it's
Yeah,
fucking stupid.
it's yeah. I mean, there are different things that come to mind. Like I remember back in the Gears of War 1 days, like we knew people that would like use a marker or a sticker to like put like the freaking reticle on the screen at all times, and now there are monitors where you can just apply that manually and stuff like that. It's going to be a constant sloshing, and you mentioned it scares the shit out of you. I mean, that's just the nature of being in the gold rush period, so to speak. I kind of equate it to like the kind of way that cybersecurity works, where it's just like new exploits are found and new defenses are found, and then new exploits are found for those, and it's a constant back and forth. We're going to be living through that for the remainder of our lives. We're going to see technology of either side of any issue kind of like duke it out back and forth. The other thing to consider is that like it'll be and why it would be easier to track in the long run is like not everyone's going to be using this technology, even if it works like one half of as well as it's advertised or made out to be, so it's like you're looking at things through like an analytical lens because you're just looking at it, but like the applications and the spread of such things, it's not necessarily there yet. So my general take on it is the same way you say like, oh, I thought we were here to play games, where does playing the game end, begin, and all that kind of stuff. I've been bitching about that kind of stuff forever, whether it's stuff like NVIDIA shaders to make the game no longer looks good, but you can see things better playing on different settings. In competitive gaming, you have people taking performance enhancing drugs, shit like Adderall or poppers and all that kind of shit. And it's just like, there's always going to be those guys. There are always going to be those guys. My general feeling is, looking and hearing about that, is I don't think it's going to work nearly as well as it does. If it does, I don't think it's going to be nearly as widespread enough to be worried about. I think it's going to be a very premium product. I like the part that's sticking with me is just like, as computer prices and everything is going up, this monitor comes out of the blue and it's going to be within consumer range. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as big a splash as you may make it out to be, I guess. And time
probably
will tell.
won't be, but my whole point is that like they're making it, which means other companies are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, the other thing to consider, like, we're not there yet as far as seeing like what the ramifications are going to be on the consumer market, because there have been plenty of ideas that have been tried, for as long as we've been cognizant of technology and being able to like look at and see and look at different industries and watch them evolve, right? And there have been plenty of things that have been tried, and plenty of technologies that are like, I guess, more reliable or just flat out better, that have gone by the wayside for various reasons, like plasma TVs, superior in a lot of ways to modern TVs, and now modern TVs have all this extra crap thrown into them. What I'm basically trying to get with this is like, nothing is really set in stone as far as like, even if it is definitively better, it may not make it into the future outside of an enthusiast market, so to speak, because of just how technology breaks down. I do think that's sort of a breakthrough in technology in general. I don't know if this would really go anywhere, even if it did live up to all the lofty expectations.
God, I really, one day we really should have a whole segment about AI and how it's fucking ruining everything.
We could do that, but overall, I mean, that's just my takeaway on it. Like, I understand why you're looking at it that way, and obviously it's the hot technology of the now, regardless of how people blow it up, or the misnomers around it and the applications, the good, the bad, and all that kind of stuff. It is the technology of the now, so it's kind of like the best way to look at these things, I would say, is just to keep an eye out and just examine these things.
Also, only get better.
Well, that's the yes and no. That is where the technology is on the trend.
Always gets better.
No, that's why why I'm saying yes and no is because AI in particular has much rougher plateaus and highs and lows than other technologies in the past have, where there's a lot of like spark moments where like it shoots up and it lasts that way for months, and then long plateaus depending on the technology, that could last anywhere between months and years and whatnot. So it's really just a matter of, I think we're reaching a point just globally throughout all industries where we're like heading for another plateau point, and we'll see how all these industries handle it, because like the technology isn't going to go away or anything like that, but at the same time, it's like nothing is going to be quite as there's no guarantee of another overnight kind of like apocalypse, especially as all the hardware, like the kind of hardware shenanigans we're going through right now with like the parts and components and whatnot.
I agree with you overall, but I just think this is a frog boiling in a pot of water scenario.
It could be. It's really just like anything else. It's coming. It's just a matter of in what capacity, and because the same way that we look at these things like this new monitor that like scopes things out and may disconnect with the human element aside, may work well or may not work well, is like we've already been through the ringer with different things like, oh, look at the things you can do with music and generative images, and I always harp on the text aspect of it because I think like the text aspect is where it really shines, like helping you organize and list things and whatnot. And it's like people have already kind of settled into that, and the rough parts about AI aren't really exclusive to games. It's more like how people interact with them, like the ones that use it for fucking everything. That's I would say. And this isn't meant to go off topic of video games and hardware and stuff like that. The place where people need to worry the most about AI has to do with how humans directly interact with it. Not what they use it for, not the fields that it enters, but how they interact with it. So that's the only thing I would really... That's my only comment.
Shoving it into... I agree. Them shoving it into fucking everything with a circuit board, I have a problem with that. And again, we can have this conversation on a different day, but you have a much more positive outlook on it than I do.
I wouldn't call it positive. I would just say I'm looking at it as just the nature of technology and things like that. It's like while not the application is obviously vastly different, I kind of look at it like when remember when smart devices were a novelty, and now every fucking thing ever has like smart, like it's harder to find non-smart devices than smart devices, and they kind of settled in, and like it's almost like a sloshing kind of moment where things even out, so that's just the nature of all things. Short of like, I think we're already past the general spark that could lead to something cataclysmic, and cataclysmic's hyperbole, obviously, but I mean like really like crash moments for industries and whatnot. It's like, sure, we're going through the computer component, apocalypse as far as pricing, and that's a whole other bit of shenanigans because it's ingrained into the foundation of what they need. But what I'm getting at is like we're kind of already past that turmoil moment, I guess you could say, where it's like literally it's like now there's like incremental increases across, and like everybody's waiting for the next spark, which I don't think is really around the corner or anything, but like could be surprised.
I do think there is more to come though.
No, there is more to come, but you got to understand.
I mean, we're gonna go back and forth. I get it. I do.
Like I said, like it's not that there's no more to come. I'm saying that the kind of spark that leads to generally really bad or really good things, I don't think we're near one of those, and when it comes, it's going to be like out of left field, and it'll be something in a region not necessarily of our own when it comes to like the things that we talk about, like the applications. I don't think it's going to be in the field of gaming. Like it's going to hit somewhere else, and then it'll trickle out the same way it did initially.
I disagree, but again, we're going to go back and forth. I don't.
I get you. Although I am while I am wildly curious that you had as to how you think gaming will be the ground zero of the next AI.
No, I never said ground zero. But
well, I said it's not going to be us, and you said you disagree.
Yeah, we need a whole episode dedicated to this because we're going to go on, and I don't have the time.
Okay.
But anyway, that's episode 89, folks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm closing it out there because I am out of time, and we're gonna go in fucking circles. If you are still listening, thank you. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week to argue about this some more, or I'm sorry, have a friendly discussion or debate about this some more. But
Alrighty.
With that being said, that was episode 89 of the Pre-Game Network podcast, and we will see everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.